How do we develop the soul? These three aspects, the conscious soul, the intellectual soul, and the emotional soul, how do we develop them? Let us begin with the conscious soul. How do we develop it? We develop it as a result of right action. And the conscious soul, as we have said, is based on the use to which we put this dense body, this physical body. The right actions that we take using this physical body will generate the conscious soul. How does it then grow? It grows by awareness of your actions. Often we do things routinely and we don't even become aware of our own actions. We don't do things on autopilot. You need to constantly remind yourself, be aware of your own actions. When you wake up from bed, throughout the day to the time that you sleep, what actions did you take? Why did you take them? But just follow your routines may be problematic. If we should ask, the past 4 hours, can you recollect the actions that you took and the reason for taking them? Being aware of these actions to which you put this physical body is what brings about the conscious soul. And also, the external impacts that come to you, are you aware of them? The people you meet, the things that they say, are you aware of them? And then the experience that we gather, the lessons that we learn from the experience, these are the things generally that lead to the building, the development of the conscious soul. We do that every day, except we might not be conscious of what we are doing. Now, what are the specifics? We want to look at some of the specifics in improving upon your conscious soul. Observation is key. Can you just recollect how things are arranged in your room? Can you just recollect the person you met about 2 hours ago? What was he or she wearing? Observation is key. And then discrimination between what is good and what is bad and doing that which is good. We must have that as part of our everyday life. Not just anything goes, but firm in deciding between what is good and what is not good. Are we making good use of our opportunities, our talent, and our abilities? When we make good use of them, we are developing the conscious soul. Are you hardworking? Do you persevere? These are some of the qualities that go into improving upon the conscious soul. And importantly, adaptability, or you are conservative. As for you, the way things are, that is the way they ought to be, and that ends it. You don't want to adapt. Adaptability is also very important to the building, the development of the conscious soul. How do we develop the intellectual soul? The efficient work of the spirit in the vital body. Now, not just the physical body, we are now moving to the second body, which is the vital body. The efficient work of the spirit in the vital body promotes the growth of the intellectual soul. It grows principally by memory. Memory of things that we have done. Not just bare memory, but the feelings that came with the things that we have done. That is how the intellectual soul is developed. What are the specifics? We need to improve upon our memory. Actions that we have undertaken. Do we remember them? We need to recollect them every time. We need to think in the abstract. Abstract thought builds the intellectual soul a lot. Mathematics, logic, philosophy, algebra, all this thinking in the abstract helps in building the intellectual soul. Our thoughts and our ideas in the mind, we need to build them so that we can have original thinking. We can be creative, bring new things to the world. And you do a lot of intellectual work. All these things goes into improving upon the intellectual soul. Writing, reading, composing music and all that. It goes to improving the intellectual soul. We do it, except that we are not really conscious that it is this aspect of the soul we are working on. How do we develop the emotional soul? The higher activity of the spirit in the desire body promotes the growth of the emotional soul. The emotional soul grows by the feelings and the emotions that actions and experiences have on us. Devotion to high ideals, noble ideals, they help in the growth of the emotional soul. And then spiritual exercises, including prayer, helps a lot in developing the emotional soul. Now, what are the specifics about developing the emotional soul? We go back to looking at the desire body, as we mentioned in our past presentation. And we remind ourselves of the two lower and higher aspects of the desire world and the desire body. The lower desires and the higher desires. They are very important. Look at the lower desires. Materiality. Where you spend all your time, all your energy, concentrating on only the material things of this world without thinking about spiritual things. Greediness, selfishness, hatred, jealousy, deception, pride, forgery. These low desires don't build any soul quality for us. Rather, let us focus on the higher desires. Unconditional love, altruism. You are caring and sharing with others. You are there to support people every time. You have compassion and you are truthful. You offer selfless service. You are a peacemaker. You have self-control. You are humble. You have sympathy and empathy for people. Holiness and spirituality. These are the higher things that we must pursue in order to develop our emotional soul. So, overall, the emotional soul, it adds to the efficiency of the human spirit. The intellectual soul gives added power to the life spirit. And the conscious soul increases the consciousness of the divine spirit. The divine spirit is the highest. Eventually, it will absorb the emotional soul and the intellectual soul and other spiritual derivatives, which we haven't spoken about yet, but with time we'll speak about them. The divine spirit will absorb all of them at the end. Then humanity becomes perfect. We will then have the creative fiat and power to create new things. Let us take note. The conscious soul, the intellectual soul, and the emotional soul are affected by every action. None of them works in isolation. We only separated them in this presentation for the purposes of emphasis and clarification. Nonetheless, at every point in time, depending on what you are doing, you add to the soul quality of one of them more than another. That is the way our everyday activity influences our soul qualities.